Hello, everyone. This is Raphael.
I'm Loryn.
We're the Pacheco siblings, and welcome to the Hypercube podcast, a talk show in which two siblings converse about anything and everything. Today, we are joined by a very special guest. If you're coming from the Machinima Hub community, then he really needs no introduction. But for those who don't know, Braigar is the mastermind behind the YouTube channel TSCStudios and one of the founders and moderators of the Machinima Hub community. So, welcome, Braigar, to the show.
Thank you. I'm not a mod anymore, but yeah, I was one of the ones.
Oh, are you not anymore?
One of the guys who created it, that's for sure.
So still founder, yes, not mod.
It was time to let the other guys take control of that, and I am way too busy with other stuff.
That is fair.
That's fair. That is fair. Yeah. Well, I mean, still.
Anyways, thanks for having me.
Yeah. That must be a really good feeling, though, to let something that you started go into other people's hands, though, and realize that it's got enough of its own legs.
I feel very bad for them. It's a lot of responsibility. So, but they got it handled.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I guess I want to kind of, as I was talking with you a bit beforehand, before we start rolling, I did want to do, and I want to do more of this generally, of doing like an artist profile type of thing and getting to know you as a creator a little bit more. First off, I just kind of want to get into, because you've been running your channel for a good while now, and I'm kind of curious what kind of got you into what you do, into creating for an online audience in general, but in Machinima and all that. Do you recall what first got you interested in that sort of thing?
Well, I was watching a lot of YouTube. I got into Minecraft, and that got me into watching Minecraft videos, which then got me into doing Let's Plays and all sorts of stuff. I did that kind of stuff in the beginning. I never, I was never directing and making machinimas and stuff like that. But it got to the point where, okay, so when I was younger, I created this TSC story, right? When I was a kid. I used to play around in the yard and blah, blah, blah. I came up with this big story that I somehow never let go of. I continue working on it to this day. And so, yeah, I was working on that, but like I was never going to get like the book done or anything like that. I was never going to make it live action or anything like that. So I was looking at machinimas. That was a thing. I can do that. I can make it now. So why not just do that? So that's how I started making the TSC series. Was because that was going to be my way of telling the story.
Right. The Shattered Crown.
Yes, the Shattered Crown.
Okay. So yeah, that was a while in the makings, from what I understand. Even back when you were first doing that show, like you said, that was like a childhood story that was kind of stuck in your head. Like, how long do you reckon about that was between first conceiving of it and then first putting it to any sort of production?
19 years.
Wow.
I made that video. I remember when we did the finale of the TSC, I made a video to go along with it called The 19 Years or something, which explains kind of how it came together.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And now it's even longer than that.
Oh, man.
I was
now.
I was 8 years old when around the time when I came up with this stuff. And now I'm 30. So it
oh, dang.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, how old were you roundabouts then when you first started doing the machinimation?
Oh God, it was 2015. That's I think that's when we released it. So
okay, gotcha.
Because I remember I did the whole first season ahead of time, and released them all in one, like every week. Something I ditched for all the other seasons. So I would just release them whenever I had the episode done, because it took forever.
Oh yeah, I imagine with the amount of production you're putting into it. So yeah, the Shattered Crown, that was a huge passion project then for a long time. I guess decades long now.
Yeah, it still is. Like it's gotten to the point where I used to have other machinimas. Like for example, Loryn helped me with Knights of Frost. That was a big one I did in between projects. But now I have dedicated the whole channel only to TSC. There's no other Machinimas being made for that channel. It's only for that universe. And so, for example, the new projects we're doing, the live action, the one thing I said I probably never do for TSC, I'm doing right now. We're finally gotten to the point where we can make the live action TSC, and that will go on that channel, even though it's not a Machinima, but it's all dedicated to that universe.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So that's really exciting. Yeah, getting to do a live action. Is it going to be like just a short film type of thing?
Yeah, well, it's like the script is about 10 pages, so it's relatively short. But I'm noticing it's becoming longer than I expected it to be, because by just the first filming the first page we had was like 5 minutes. That's like half the pages. So
oh wow, yeah. So, we'll talk about that a little bit then. How did that come about? How did you realize that this was something you had the capability to do now, and sort of what went into making that production happen?
See, I never thought I had the capability to do it. Like, even now, I'm surprised that, like I told you before we started, I'm surprised it looks decent. Because, like...
It does look really good.
I didn't expect it to. Honestly.
Yeah, for context, he showed us an early screener of the rough cut as it is right now before we started recording. And so, yeah, we could confidently say it's actually shaping up pretty good. I was honestly surprised.
Yeah, and this is just
it is shot well.
It's me, my friend, who also played the girl in the video. She is usually the cameraman. And then we have like 2 other actors. We have only started filming with one of them today. And the other one we're going to try this weekend. And yeah, it's mostly been me and her. And I think it's turning out pretty good. And it's been a lot of fun, dude. I told the other guys this today too. Movie projects has been the only jobs where I'll be dead ass sick and still want to do it. Like, I remember last production I was part of, like, I was so sick in the middle of the night and I refused to go home. I am staying. I'm being part of this production. Like, no other job or anything like that I'll do that for.
Yeah.
So I guess that's curious then. Have you worked in like film or film adjacent industries in any other capacity?
Yes.
Or is that okay?
So back in 2011 or 10, I auditioned. Like, I used to be in the music industry, you could say, or like bands and stuff like that locally. I've been in a lot of those. But then, like, around 2010-11, it shifted because I joined this audition for this short film, which opened up basically the movie world for me in live action. So I got the main part in this movie called Restaurant. With this director, I have done like about 3 projects or so over the last few years. I done music video, commercials. Like, it basically opened up my acting career, you could say. We managed to fill up some theaters here, which has been great. That was an experience. Like, seeing so many, like, the whole hallway leading into the cinema was filled. That was a crazy experience. And
that's awesome.
And then also the last big project I was part of was because I had auditioned for another big movie in Norway earlier, and one of the producers remembered me and then called me back up for this part in this true crime documentary, which was one of the biggest shows on national TV here a few years back. Because it's a really intense crime that happened. It's still active, like several years after it happened, or many years. And they recently caught the guy.
Oh wow!
Oh well, supposedly they think they caught the guy. And in this series, this was long before they had any solid evidence on anyone. And there were like 3 suspects, and I played one of them.
Oh wow!
And then this guy gets caught. The guy I played. And then suddenly I get some phone calls. We're filming again. So I'm excited to see when the next one comes out.
Whoa, that is
You're a big shot.
We don't know where it's releasing yet, even.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I didn't know about just from my limited experience with you. So you do actually have some experience outside of the YouTube world in this industry. That's fascinating. And I was wondering that as well, because just by like looking at it and looking at the quality of how your live action project was turning out for basically a first attempt at directing live action, I was like, it's surprisingly solid. And I was thinking not everybody makes that transition from going from, a sort of digital medium like Machinima, which is like purely digital in a sense, to live action that well. But yeah, I figured you must have had some sort of outside film experience and knowledge to be able to do that.
Oh yeah, I helped the big short film that we did, the one that filled the cinema stuff. So I helped produce that one. So I was like real big part of like the writing phase. I didn't write it, but I helped the writer, and I helped get him stuff and like doing the normal producer stuff, and also acting in it, which was a big passion project for us. Which that taught me a lot of how the actual production of a live action amateur project would function, and how the director works and all that stuff. But
so is that short film more like indie scale?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's local. But like we can. It has been to some film festivals. That's why it annoys the living out of me, because like we can't see them online because they've been to festivals.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, the festival controls when.
Yeah, I'm hoping one day they can release them, because I'm really proud of some of that work. But anyways, I would say what has actually more than those projects, I would say, Machinimas actually did help me learn how to direct. Because like I'm setting up this very similar shots as I do in like the Machinimas. I go for the same kind of mentality. I think the only thing I'd learned from the live action projects that I definitely take on to here is how to treat the people on set, because those are people that are gonna have to be patient with you and like be there and like actually give an effort. That's different from the Machinima making process, because they can go whenever they just do the thing, or maybe they're not even there. So it's really about taking care of the people that are part of the project and showing appreciation and being a bit humble, I think.
Especially when you're at like that really indie scale with like zero budget and a lot of people are there on volunteer time.
Really reliant on the people.
For sure. And I was going to say, I was really happy that you said that too, because this is something that Loryn and I often talk about and are adamant about, when it comes to younger creatives getting into the field these days, and just how accessible a lot of things are. And maybe Loryn, you could elaborate on this point a little bit extra. But what I was going to say was, like, when you were saying it's familiar, and Machinima taught you a lot about the directing side, such that when you get to the live action set, you're applying a lot of the same principles. And that's very much true in my experience. I mean, a lot of my essentially formative film experience was with Machinima, even though I do more live action than Machinima these days. However, like on my early channel, not the one that we're currently doing with P-Cubed, but the channel that I had before that, I remember doing Machinimas for that. And that was really my earliest experience with learning how to direct something cinematic for the purposes of storytelling. And that knowledge was extremely transferable. It's like almost some of the best film boot camp that you can get in terms of learning the principles and learning what you need to assemble a cut.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. And what's great about Machinima is that it gives people easy access to that sort of experience, because like everybody has a video game, that you could probably machinimate in. And if you're using Minecraft, all the more, right? Minecraft is so open-ended, and there's so many tools to facilitate machinimas nowadays, like Blockbuster and Aperture and whatnot. So, and that stuff is, I think I would highly recommend that to any younger person who's trying to get into the filmmaking world, because that is an arena in which you can experiment and learn principles and just learn the craft before you get out there and do anything a lot more risky, and that requires a lot more of a commitment. It's like this playground where you could start learning.
Honestly, film school should honestly just take in machinima making.
Really?
Because what better platform to fail in?
Exactly.
You know?
Any kind of real-time filmmaking or anything that's like safe and quick and that'll allow you to play with camera, lighting, blocking, anything like that, where you could set up, start shooting, and you don't have to worry about turnover time and actors sitting around waiting in the cold, where you just set everything up, you can shoot it and go, you know what, actually that didn't work in the edit, maybe I can try it again, and then immediately go and fix it.
I do think we did get some experience though from back in the day when we used the body actors. Because that is kind of like it is in live action. When you ask them to sit around waiting for you to tell them to nod their heads.
Yeah. And they nod it for 5 seconds, and then they're like, okay, now we're going to set up the next one.
Yeah, I'm glad I got that experience as well. That's definitely, you and I are old enough to remember the days.
Yeah.
And yeah, not everybody in the machinima world has to experience that anymore.
They're so privileged nowadays with their blockbusters and
yeah, all these spoiled machinimator kids. Just they don't know how good they have it.
The struggle of body acting.
Remember when you used to have friends to make machinimas?
Yeah. Oh god, the good old days.
Oh my goodness.
We did get some good bloopers from those days.
Of course.
Those are some,
for sure.
I almost enjoy watching those more now. The TSC bloopers over the actual thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm almost sad, like with Edenith, the first season of Edenith, which was like maybe 75%. I could say the first season of Edenith now that there's a second one coming up. That's crazy. But that was like maybe 75% shot with body actors before we discovered Blockbuster in its infancy towards the latter end of the production. And there were so many hilarious and memorable moments. I'm almost sad that we don't have a record of a lot of them. Some of them we do. Like we uploaded the Mankini one, where our friend Joe came in with that ridiculous skin. But they're, I mean, I guess a lot of the memories that I'm thinking of were just like hijinks that Joe got up to on set. Yeah. There was so many funny, like that one time where he just found the command block button and hit it at the Battle of Arcturus and summoned a buttload of ghasts.
Yeah.
It's like those little things when they have to wait around and then they suddenly come up with some sneakiness to mess around with because they're bored or something like that. That's when some of the funny stuff shows up.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I guess to get back to the subject of your sort of filmography, then again here. Okay. So going through TSC, now the original TSC show was so long ago at this point, and you've done so much in that world since through short films and through all sorts of things, and obviously with Blockbuster and all these advancements that have been made to it and that have been made to machinimation on Minecraft in general. I mean, it's almost night and day looking at the latest stuff you're doing compared to where it all began.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's it's
basically animation now.
Yeah, it's basically animation now. And it's like you look back at the early seasons, like those were so crude by comparison.
Yeah.
And not to mention you've gotten so much better as a director and as an editor and all that, ever since. So it's like I'm curious, because this is something that's I guess we don't often talk about often enough as artists, is what's it like moving forward from that for you? Like, is it hard to look back at that old stuff, especially knowing now how much better it could be? Or are you just like interested in just nose to the grindstone, keep pumping out new stuff and just making it better each time? Or do you ever like look back or wish you could do anything different? I mean, obviously you always wish you could do stuff over, but yeah, I'm curious what your perspective is like.
Okay, so I love this show. It has a special place in my heart but we have already started to like kind of like soft retcon some stuff from it. Like back when the show was made, that was the only thing TSC was.
Yeah.
There was no other thing around. No, there was some history before it, but there was nothing beyond it, or a side of it, or anything like that. So when we finished it, we started working on a spin-off of one of the characters called Rebecca. And that was only supposed to be one like history video of her, which turned it into like a trilogy of her, and she somehow became like a front figure of this universe when she never was intended to be. It's just that people knew more of her now than this actual series itself. And that spun off into like the Tribunal storyline. So once we were done with Rebecca, we started working on the Tribunal stuff. And that made us like jump before the series to set up the Tribunal, and then after the series, because we really wanted to show how this world was affected after the Shadow Crown War. So we saw the aftermath in a lot of locations and the people, and I love seeing an expanded world. I love that in Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. I was really inspired by Avatar. I know a lot of people don't like Legend of Korra, but I really do, because I love seeing that world expanded, and similar shows like that.
Oh, you're in good company here.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because that
sure. I know
that inspired me a lot.
I know a lot of people, don't like it, but it's like, and I think I get why, but it's also just for me. There's so many good things in that show, not least the animation. Just as like an animation fanatic, like the animation quality is so much better by comparison.
It's just straight up better.
Yeah, just straight up better by comparison to its predecessor series. Like, there's no comparison. It's like night and day.
I've always said that if TSC was ever made into an animated show, that's the look. That's how it should be.
That's the style.
Yes.
Yeah.
That or Castlevania, but it's like similar. So.
Oh yeah, pretty similar.
Yeah.
I guess it has a bit of a different aesthetic.
Yeah.
But yeah, love the animation in Castlevania too.
I prefer to go forward. I like to do new stuff. Really. And the times I have gone back was, for example, in the movie D8. That takes place exactly at the opening of the show from a different perspective. So I kind of got to do some of that again. But yeah, again, from a different perspective this time. The same with Lathane, because that also took place around the beginning of the series. So that's where the soft retcon stuff kind of came from. But I have been wanting to redo the story of this show. But I think the way I'm going to do it is eventually, when I have more time, I'm going to write that book. I'm gonna do it. It's going to happen. And that's when I'm going to make more this is the version, this is what happened, kind of.
Yeah.
Right. The official canon, essentially.
Because I don't think I'm going to go back and make a whole series again. That would be too much for me, especially with the plans I have going forward.
So it's like doing it as a novel, as a work of literature. Is that something that's sort of been on your mind for a while? Is that something you've always wanted to do? That
was always the intention for the show, or like the story. Okay. Then I just made it a machinima because I couldn't make it a book. But I think if I get help, I'll manage to get a written form of it, no matter how it ends up being, if it's a book or something similar. I think that answered the question, didn't it?
Yeah, okay. For sure. Yeah, and I will say as well, you and I, I guess between the three of us, we collaborate every once in a while in little ways. I will say some of the stuff you've been mentioning is kind of bringing me back because I got to work on a little bit of it as an actor, which I don't do too much voice acting, especially not nowadays where my time is so limited. Blast. But I will say, doing the brief parts as King Lamarck and the whole throughout the whole Lethane storyline, or at least a part of it, that honestly was probably one of the more rewarding acting experiences for me.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Especially doing the 8. That was that even though that one's like kind of brief, and I'm not going to spoil anything for those who might not have seen it. We'll link it in the show notes for sure, but my character does not have a good time. I'll just say that.
No.
But it was such a rewarding experience, and getting to take that character on however brief a journey it may have been, it wasn't incredibly central, didn't have a whole lot of lines, but he was an important character, and I got to take him on a little bit of a journey, and then concluding that with his final appearance in the 8. And that was just such a fun thing to work on, especially because that was the one sort of time I had to kind of record with Scuffle in the same session, besides like the opportunities I've had to direct her, of course, but as an actor. And she is just such a phenomenal scene partner, and it is just incredible energy to be
has come so far
in the booth, so to speak. Yeah, really. I kind of, at least to my mind, I kind of credit Scuffle's meteoric rise to stardom in the Machinima Hub community to you and the Lethane sort of series of
she made that
films.
character so special. Like, that character already existed, but she made that character so hers in a very special way that I don't think anyone else could have done, honestly.
Yeah, and now she's freaking everywhere.
Yeah. She is doing good. I'm very proud of her.
Oh yeah.
Her and also Tarquin is doing amazing. I don't know if you guys have gotten to work with him yet, but he's talent.
I have not gotten to work with Tarquin. Is he the one that played
he played Leo in the new Crimes of Loryn that Apple directed.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I haven't gotten the chance to work with him. I've gotten the privilege to direct Scuffle a number of times now. Most recently on the Deneth Chronicles Season 2. I'm just going to plug it here. It's coming. It's coming. You could hear her voice a bit in the teaser trailer. But I am so stoked for her character in Deneth. Like, it's not even funny. Actually, it is funny. It's hilarious. You guys will see. Because her character is phenomenal, and her chemistry with Rose's character is just great, and I'm so happy we got them to record together for the entirety of the show, because the sheer energy of that dynamic is amazing. And I'm already getting ludicrous amounts of outtakes out of them, and little behind the scenes.
There was some real chemistry going on there.
Oh yeah. They bonded hard.
Are you guys voicing in it?
We are a bit.
By necessity.
Yeah, by necessity, basically.
Because I was going to say, like,
major roles.
You two have really become my go-to, like, we need somebody. I go to you guys. I've dragged you guys into so many projects now.
Oh, well, that's flattering. Yeah. I wish I could say yes more, honestly.
Have you said no to me? I don't think you have ever.
Yes, I have.
You have?
On the most recent time you asked, I had to, because I was like, because more recently I've taken on the position that I'm like not taking on unpaid acting jobs because I just have not had the time. Like, it's ridiculous. Life has been a whirlwind lately, and now I'm kind of living on my own for the first time, and just everything's so much time has gone out the window. But
okay,
unfortunately, I just have not had the opportunity to be able to take on a lot of acting. The only acting I'm still doing is obviously if anyone offered me paid roles, then I would make the time for that. But since I'm not really searching for it, I don't really see that happening. Okay. But the only thing I'm still just finishing is on Slightly Insulting, they're doing their big sort of superhero universe. I play Steve, and
that's right.
Because I'd already committed to that, I was like, I could see that through to at least finish the storyline that they set me on there.
Didn't I drag you into that too?
But that's about it. I think you might have. I don't remember if you were the connection for that.
Because I remember him needing like a replacement for Steve. I'm like, I know some people.
Yeah, honestly, that has been a surprising amount of fun as well. Again, getting a chance to
really good
play any sort of character. Yeah, over a long run.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I was the villain in that one.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were. I forgot about that. Yeah, we're both in that. Just it's weird that we're both in that as actors.
Yeah,
you know, like who like most
it's
people
kind
just
of
think
funny
of us
how
as
this
like
Machinima web kind of
Yeah.
leads us. Like in here, we're directing that person, but in this one, we're voicing together. And
yeah, that is weird.
Yes.
Man, what a community.
Yes.
And that's what's kind of excited about the whole thing. I mean, the Machinima Hub community has really taken on a life of its own.
Oh yes.
And there's just so many mutual connections and so many collaborations, then so many people that are just trading hands. It's really awesome. I guess do you think you could share a little bit about what led to the creation of the Machinima Hub? Because it's been around for a good few years now. I don't know too much about its origin story. Like, was that just something that you and some of the others who founded it, like, was that like some big epiphany? Was it a big moment, or did you just say, hey, something like this should exist?
Well, so it was around the time we were finishing off the finale of TSC, and I was getting to know more Machinima creators. For example, Ray from Slightly Insulting and you guys and so forth. And there was this other guy who had like a Twitter where he used to share Machinimas all the time. And we were like, there should be a Discord of something like this. So we got together the few creators that we knew, and we like created the Discord. And the general rule was that was gonna be community led. So we would like always generally like ask questions: is this what people want? Blah 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 blah. We tried to make it general Machinima, but seeing how we were so many Minecraft Machinima creators, it kind of overtook. And it's been really hard for creators of other platforms to kind of feel welcomed. Not that they're not welcome, it's just that they feel out of place a lot of the time, which is, I don't know, unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, something's still being worked on.
Yeah. But yeah, we would need like a bunch of them to join at the same time or something for that to happen.
Yeah.
But anyways, I am very proud of it because like generally these types of communities, they can easily die out over time, at least. But it's still going. It's maybe not the most active like chatting community, but it's still being they're having the community showcase videos, they're having the awards, they're having the key Machinimas are kept getting shared, auditions, promo, like it's still stuff happening.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll say, you know, just to put this here on the podcast too, we'll definitely link the Discord in the show notes also. But the Machinima Hub community, if you're into Minecraft Machinima at all, or you want to get into it, or you're creating in it, then I would highly recommend the Machinima Hub community, because it is just a wonderful resource and a great networking tool to kind of get you started. Because you have access there to all sorts of people. You know, there are actors looking for work, you know, builders, artists.
There's also resources.
And resources that you can use, skin packs, things like that. Yeah, it is just, it's a great resource if you're in the Minecraft Machinima world.
I think it's the place to be if you're in the Machinima world.
This is like an advertisement now. It's like, this is the place.
I'm not even a mod anymore, but I actually genuinely think that. I do think if you're working on Minecraft Machinimas, you should be there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely a very, very helpful resource.
So I actually wanted to ask you, Braigar, as a individual, how would you, I guess, describe yourself as a creator? Are you more on the, like, would you say you're more talent or as a director, creator type of thing? Because like you started as talent, you said, doing like live action commercials and stuff like that. Would you say you're more of an actor or more of a director, like in terms of your creative identity?
I mean, I started as like the actor in like live action and stuff like that. But like I feel like in the Machinima community, I've been more director than actor. Like I've tried to do more acting because I want to get better with my accent and everything.
I guess here's another sort of elaboration is, do you have one you prefer? Do you enjoy
yes.
one more than the other?
If I had to, oh, that's a hard one now, though. Oh God, okay, because there's that feeling of when you're like deep into like an acting role that is so therapeutic, I'd say, and it feels so nice when you have done like some very intense stuff.
Mhm.
But I love, because when you're a director, you're basically the kid in the sandbox. That is when you do the painting of like the bigger picture. I love seeing things come together. So I'd say acting wise it's more emotional, while director wise it's more fulfilling.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, they both kind of have their strengths for you then.
Yeah, it's hard to pick one, especially when they're like they fulfill me in different ways.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool.
Yeah, there's different places where you feel more fulfilled in one role or another.
Yeah, I think that answers the good questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
For sure.
You guys also tend to do a bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, certainly. I will say this. Even though I have done some acting, I don't think I ever would have gotten into doing any sort of acting work if it wasn't at first by necessity. Because, I was just like a lonely kid that was getting into doing online videos, that I first started lending my voice to my own projects because I just didn't have many contacts or people that, I could bring on as actors. So that's where I sort of first started. But then, I just sort of by necessity had to develop some of the skills that were necessary in order to do that well. But if I had my choice, I would always much rather be behind the camera than in front of it, to be honest. That's just sort of where I am. And for me, I would say primarily, I've always identified myself as a writer because that's what I've been doing my entire life, essentially. For as long as I've known how to write, I have been writing. And, filmmaking for me as a director is just an extension of that. So it's just writing with a camera at that point, or writing, with actors, with performers, or writing with the broad brush of any sort of craft that goes into it.
I was gonna say, like, do you see yourself as like do you prefer cameraman work, directing, or I guess you said the writing, right? Like the writing is your preferred one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, writing is definitely my most comfortable state. That's what I enjoy most because, again, that's what I've been doing the longest.
So you consider yourself a writer more so than any of the other ones?
Yeah, I would say primarily I consider myself a writer. I mean, I still would consider myself a general filmmaker as well. But again, to me, I always sort of seen that as like an extension of my original creative love, which was writing. But I don't know, Loryn, I don't know if I could speak for you. What would you say? How would you color yourself? Because you have done a lot more talent side than I have.
Yeah, I have done quite a bit more acting than you have, but it's difficult for me because I also like the directorial side of the creative life, of being able to see the big picture, putting everything together, organizing everything, and then seeing it all come together at the end. I love that, but I also love just like not having any of that responsibility and still being part of something creative. But the problem is, like, I don't really like being I do like talent. I'm just not that good at like dramatic acting. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like I like being on camera, but that's why I want to do like stunt work, because I can still be in front of the camera, I could still act, I could still be a character, and I could still do all that stuff. I just don't have to worry about like acting against another person dramatically and like that kind of stuff. Well, maybe with a little bit of training and a little bit of practice, I can get better. But I prefer like stunt work and that kind of acting role a little bit more secondary or tertiary.
Yeah, it's a way of letting go when it comes to like the emotional stuff. It's a way of you have to let go of a lot when you go for the emotional acting.
Yeah, it's just hard for I think it just comes down to like a lack of training. I probably could get pretty decent at acting if I took like proper classes and courses and did more maybe theater training, but I'm much better at falling down.
That's so the way I understand it, you identify mostly as a stunt man, then.
Yeah, I would if I were to pick one role as as talent, stunt person would be my preferred role, not like lead or anything like that. But my actual preferred role would be stunt coordinator or second unit director. So still directing and still doing stunts. That's where I like to be.
Okay, so yeah, so it's not like necessarily the director of the project, but you're directing a part of the project.
Yeah, I would like
That's
to
cool.
do
Yeah,
the bigger,
that's a reasonable thing too, though. Like you can actually do that in the movie business.
Yeah, to be fair, it's a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Because you have a lot more people who are trying to become stars than there are people who are trying to throw punches.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too, is it kind of plays to your strong suits. I mean, you've always been obviously very athletic, and just movement and using movement expressively and artistically has always kind of been a part of your core identity.
Yeah, I'm real good at moving. I know do words good.
That being said, I think you're selling yourself short here, because I've had the opportunity to direct you loads of times, and I think you do a decent job, in terms of like dramatically. But I think you really do your best acting when you're improvising, in my opinion.
That's
like
true.
when doing role playing games, RPGs and D&D and all that we've been getting into more so in recent years. You are a really good performer in any kind of nature, like comedy, drama, heavy emotions, you name it. Like you can handle all that when you're in that improv environment and immersed in a character for hours on end. Like you do really good.
I think I just need to join an improv troupe.
Yeah, really, maybe. Because I was gonna say, look at Mr. G in the final story arc of Resident Roleplay, right? Like what a journey you brought that character on.
No, thank you.
And again, yeah, like the world went gray, that whole episode, just incredible. Still some of the best storytelling that I think you could find on our channel is wound up in the final story arc of Resident Roleplay. But yeah, I mean, there's that. But again, yeah, I could definitely see where you might find some discomfort in not having confidence in your vocal or performative abilities.
I think it is,
but
I think you might be right. It is just more that, like, I do have that talent when it comes to improv or like spontaneous kind of interactions. When it comes down to like written, like hit these beats of dramatic tension or whatever, just like my ability to perform written scripts, it's a little bit lacking, I guess. It's all right when it comes down to like voice acting. I can do voice acting because you don't have to pay attention to what my body is doing because I'm like too focused on the words.
Right.
I think if you do it enough, the scene, you'll get there.
Yeah.
That's normally how it's having done like a lot of dialogue scenes lately, it never hits with the first try.
Yeah.
The more you just keep doing it until like you're so tired of it. That's when you normally get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like some of that Sorkin dialogue. I remember hearing about that when they were talking about doing Sorkin dialogue on The Social Network, which is directed by David Fincher, who famously does loads of takes. And yeah, I remember some of the actors talking about that. It was just like, by the time you get to like the 60th or 70th take, it's like they don't even sound like words anymore. And but it just becomes so ingrained in you at that point that your recitation is completely natural.
Yeah.
And so that's where Fincher was trying to get them for that film. So yeah, there is something to that as well.
I was wondering something though. A question for you guys.
Ooh, a question.
Is so Machinimas, the idea of it is to make a story out of a game and stuff like that. But like there's also the element of YouTube. There's I'd say a difference in the people that want to make films. They want to be filmmakers, and the ones that want to be YouTubers. But they all make machinimas. They all make story, or somewhat story-driven videos. What are your guys' thoughts on the difference? And like, should they all be criticized the same?
So I've actually been thinking about this a little bit recently because
Ooh.
I've been in a different kind of environment, film school, proper education film school, like
Right.
because I've been with my partner going to her film school. A lot of film students who are learning and all this other stuff.
Over in Australia.
Yeah, over in Australia.
For clarity.
TAFE, apparently. Never heard of TAFE.
Yeah,
before,
TAFE is what they call it.
I think it's the equivalent to like a community college. But doing film school stuff, I've realized there's a difference between creators and people who create. There's people who like, obviously we talked about this a lot, Raph, you and I, just people who just have like storytelling in their bones, people who just need to tell stories, right? In whatever medium it is. It could be like film, painting, writing, anything like that. There are just people who have stories inside of them that they need to get out. And then there are others who saw other people do it and say, that's really cool. I would like to do that. And they do the process of telling their stories. They do the process of making that art, but they're not at heart creators. They're not at heart, like, I don't want to say they're not artistic, because that's not giving them the credit, like, for making art. If you make art, you are artistic, but they're not like creators by identity.
I mean,
Right.
I think they can have identity with their take, though. It's like doing a cover. Like somebody can give a song a whole new life.
Yeah.
By taking their take on it. But there's like, I get what you're saying too, though, because there are people that just want to make that again. They like that because so therefore they want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say too, yeah, you're talking specifically, you know, when you bring into the online context of, you know, basically people who are doing machinima because they aspire to be filmmakers or because they aspire to be content creators. Those are very definitely, even though they do the same kind of thing,
Different mentality.
those are definitely very different. Yeah, different mentalities. And I think they're both fair, and they can both be career paths in a sense.
Yeah.
It depends on which one you want to go for, really.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I definitely hear your point though, Loryn. And I think, yeah, very much so. I think as somebody who's been on this journey myself, when I first started out doing YouTube with the old channel that I referenced earlier, back when I was in my adolescent years, that was very much me trying to be a content creator, right? Trying to make the YouTuber thing work. And I found that very unfulfilling, because I think by the end of that journey, I kind of realized that I was less of a content creator and more of an artist. And I think it took that whole all those years and going through a whole lot of stuff in life to finally come to terms with that. But I think there are a lot of people who would pursue that path and would be perfectly contented in it, and that's okay. But again, the motivations, it really just makes a difference in what your intentions are. And I think author intentions do play a role. You're asking like about whether they should be criticized similarly. And I think author intentions make a big difference in how you should view a work as an audience member. Because yeah, if someone's making something for entertainment, or, you know, commercially, like to make it a product, that is a very different mindset versus approaching it to try and make something artistically, or you know, something that has sort of literary value, so to speak. Those are very different intentions, and I think as audience members, I think it's key to discern those different intentions in terms of how you approach it and how you critique it or how you look at it, because yeah, those are such different intentions, and both can be good in their own different ways. But again, that's just part of the process that we often talk about, of just like viewing things and in taking things in critically, of understanding, you know, what that difference is.
Yeah, understanding the context of why the piece was created. And
yeah, for sure. But like I said, they both have their merits. Neither one's a bad path. It's just some are for different, you know, they're different paths for different kinds of people.
But then there's also the fact that one of them is working with the platform more so than the other.
Yeah, for sure.
But like the YouTuber works for YouTube, while the filmmaker doesn't necessarily work for YouTube. It can, but like the idea of the YouTuber is to make videos that will work. Yeah. Like they will function well. Like all shorter videos, do them often, be consistent, blah blah blah. Work with things that are popular, things that people will watch. Well, filmmakers
tie into known IPs.
Yeah, filmmakers. What is it more? Yeah, filmmakers. Let's call them that. For example, want to make original content or like stuff that aren't known IPs, stuff that people won't necessarily search.
Yeah.
And they won't get all that traffic, and they won't be active. They won't have constant videos to give into the algorithm.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like in some ways, the YouTuber, the content creator YouTuber, on the surface appears more successful because that's the system that they're within. That's the system that they're using and they're utilizing. So like you have the two kinds of machinimators, the filmmaker and the YouTuber. The YouTuber will appear, at least on the surface, much more successful because they're playing into that. Because they're playing into the success definition of YouTube. Like when YouTube says you're successful, this is what you have to do. They do that. The filmmaker is, like you're saying, like they don't have searchable, like, they don't have search engine optimized content. Like they're not using things that everybody's like watching right now. They're not staying with the trend, but they're making art that is personal and deep and in many ways kind of not built for the YouTube algorithm. And and on the surface it seems like, they're not doing too well, but they're building that body of work.
I guess what the thing that I've always had to ask myself, because like, do I really want like the tons of views and all the subscribers and stuff like that? Like, because like then I have to do all this other stuff I don't want to do. But is me making these original stories, writing these characters, is me telling the story worth not getting the attention?
Yeah, and that's a balance that I think everybody has to strike creatively. Anybody who's in any sort of creative field, you always have to strike that balance between doing what you want to do versus doing what's commercial.
Yeah.
Because what's commercial may not, for some people, you may be such a person where what you really genuinely deep down in your heart want to do creatively is also very lucrative. It happens. Some people are born George Lucas, like I remember David Lynch once saying that. David Lynch once said of George Lucas is like, I have a lot of respect for George Lucas because like me, he makes the kind of films that he enjoys. The difference between us is that the films he wants to make also happen to make billions of dollars.
Yeah.
But it's like, so that happens sometimes. Yeah. But like you constantly have to strike that balance if you're in a creative field in terms of, doing what's commercial versus what you really truly want to do, because the two won't always align. And sometimes you have to, if you want to make your living at it, you might have to sell your soul a bit and you might have to make some compromises creatively. But, if you stick to, just trying to do exclusively what you want to do, you might not get as far, but you'll get another different kind of fulfillment, which can be a success by another definition.
You have to define your own success terms.
Exactly. Yeah. Or you could do stuff like, I think like there are some people in the industry, like say the Russo brothers, for example, that I think that have struck that balance in an interesting sort of way. And I think there are other examples, but the Russos are just the ones that come to mind right now for me, where they did their whole contract with Marvel and made a bunch of huge blockbuster films, some of the highest grossing films ever made. And then what happened after their contract ended? Now they're taking all that success and turning it into a whole lot of like projects that you could tell that they were just really passionate about and have really wanted to do. Because now, what do you do after that amount of success? Just getting handed to you. You can basically do whatever you want from there. And they've done very interesting films, a very interesting slate of films since leaving Marvel.
As soon as they as directors became like a name to sell.
Yeah,
that's when they could do something.
Yeah, and now they're doing interesting stuff. And obviously, it's a lot of it is still very commercial, yes, but it's like you can tell by virtue of the fact that it's not similar to what they did before, that it's probably more in line with what they've been wanting to do with films. And you hear them talk too. They very much clearly have a passion for film in general and what it's capable of as a storytelling medium. So it's like that's a balance you could strike, though. You just have to sacrifice like 5-10 years of your life or whatever it took for them to do their whole contract. But afterwards, they were free to do at a much larger scale than before the films that they really wanted to do.
Because especially within the industry, like once you get to a certain amount of, once you've accumulated a certain amount of power and you've made those sacrifices and you've worked for somebody else, once you've accumulated that amount of power to be able to say like, I can do my own thing, you can start to do, or rather you can start to make less sacrifices as you move forward in your career, as opposed to when at the beginning you're just completely sacrificing all of your individuality and all of your creative freedom and just saying, all right, I'm going to do what the studio tells me to do. You get to a point where you can say, well, actually, I want to have these elements in, and the studios can start saying, okay, we'll accept your pitch instead of giving you something that we wanted. Now we'll start making sacrifices and start trying to say, you know, we want this bit in your movies. It starts to flip around, and you get to have more control. Where at the beginning you don't have really any. It depends. You don't have too much individual creative control, and then you can start to turn that around and, you know, start to do your own thing, but still within the system. Ideally, it takes a long time to get there, and it very rarely happens. But that's the hope, right? That's the American dream. That's the Hollywood dream, is to be able to say, this is what I want to do.
Can I ask then, for you guys' new season, did you guys consider working with YouTube for it, or are you guys going creative?
You're saying for Identity Season 2?
Yeah. Have you guys considered even like thinking of how YouTube works when making the series, or did you guys just go for the story?
So for us, story is always number one, which is why it's taken so long to do this to begin with. You know, obviously, because even though the first season wasn't like a huge viral success, it was still one of the most viewed things we'd done to that point. And if we really wanted to capitalize on that, we would have done a second season immediately. But the problem was, I guess we just weren't ready for that. And also we designed it to begin with to be just a one-off, closed, beginning, middle, end story. However, shortly after, we did have more ideas, and that's what eventually evolved into this second season. However, we were like, okay, we don't really want to do that unless we think we're ready for it, and we think, you know, we could execute on the promise of what that should be. And so, yeah, really, if we were chasing that success hard, we probably would have done it a lot sooner. Because by now, like, probably a lot of people have forgotten about Identity who might have once seen it. Although it still shocks me every time I come across people throughout the Machinima Hub who tell me that they've been influenced by it. I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize just how much of an influence
it came out at
people.
A good time, you know? It was like right before the start of the Machinima Hub. The Machinima community was starting to gather. And
and I remember you seeing it. I don't know if we've told this story publicly of how we first met. When that was way back in the day, you did a review of it on your channel, and then we saw that and we were like, whoa, somebody reviewed our show.
Wait, was that before I knew you guys?
Yeah,
that was how we first met.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, but yeah, that was way back in the day. But that's the thing. I guess for us, it's obviously we've learned a lot more about how to optimize stuff for YouTube as best we can since, you know, we did the first season. And, you know, we know how to generally make it as viewable, whether through thumbnails or metadata and all that, as available as it can be for what it is. However, that's still, you know, you can't change the fact that it is still like an original IP. It is still, you know, something that doesn't necessarily have a mainstream attention grabber. So we'll, you know, we optimize the best we can, but it's by no means our biggest priority. Our biggest priority is always first and foremost to tell a good story. And so that's what we hope we'll be able to do.
I mean, I think the one thing we can do when working on creative content is always at least try to nail the title and thumbnail.
Yeah.
I think
pretty much
that is the one thing we can try our best to work with YouTube on.
Yeah.
Like I have swallowed so much pride on thumbnails.
That's a good way of putting it.
Because like it's not the thumbnail I would have wanted to have, but it's the one that YouTube would want me to have.
It's more clickable.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
very
sure.
often we like I think like we would want to have like something more similar to a poster
Yeah.
for a thumbnail,
Mhm.
but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. All right, so we'd best be winding this down, but this conversation took a lot of interesting turns that I wasn't entirely expecting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great discussion. But I did have one last question for you then before we wind down.
Shoot.
So for we've talked about sort of your roots and where you come from and how you've sort of gotten into things creatively. Where now do you see the future of TSC Studios going? You've talked a little bit about projects you're currently working on, but yeah, generally speaking, what is your sort of vision right now of your creative future there, or maybe with yourself in general and other projects?
Well, so my first and foremost goal now is I have 4 weeks to finish filming most of the live action project, which is gonna be difficult. But because like I moved to a school on the 16th of August, and then it's gonna be difficult for me to continue filming. But I can, if I must, I will drive home 3-4 hours to finish filming in the weekends. But hopefully we manage to do the most important bits before then. And so then I can edit in peace while I'm in school and stuff like that. And I also, because of the live action project, I kind of halted a little bit on the other Machinima project, which is the Tribunal, the conclusion to the Tribunal storyline, which is I stormed through a lot of the first and second act like really quickly. I got it done in no time. But then the third act hit me. And that was difficult. So I'm still working hard on that one. But I am towards the finish line on that film. And it's going to be big. And I'm excited for people to see it. And then we have other big projects planned. I know there's one short film. And then another big one. And then we have a whole series of movies tied together after that, which are a big project in itself. But I think that will, if I even get that far, those will be my last Machinima projects. I think at least main ones, because I want to continue doing maybe more live action stuff or something like that, other platforms than Machinimas, because I'm feeling about ready to move on.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, that's great that you could recognize that when you feel like you've done enough.
Yeah, I've done a lot.
Yeah, you have done a lot. That's for sure. You're probably one of the more prolific Machinima creators that I know. But I mean, yeah. Again, seeing your journey over these years as a creator, as a filmmaker, as a machinimator, and seeing you kind of come up with a consistent increase in quality project after project and your continued passion, it is really an inspiration to me, and it really has been a pleasure to work with you on the occasions that we have, and to have you work with us on a few occasions. It's just, it's been really cool.
I always enjoy working with you guys. There's a reason why I keep dragging you guys into things.
Oh, I believe you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything you want to plug before we sign off then? Where can people find you?
Well, mostly on TSC Studio. We have our Discord, TSC Universe, where I try to share everything. If anyone would have at all be interested, we do share some behind the scenes stuff on the Patreon, the Twitter, our Instagram, our TikTok. We have a lot of different platforms. I'm realizing now, like dad.
Do you have a centralized place that maybe has all of them linked? Can they find them all from your YouTube channel or?
TSC Universe Discord. That's where you find everything.
Okay, we'll be sure to link that then too in the notes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, it's been fun, guys.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. Thank you so much for coming on as a guest, and it was a pleasure talking with you. So we're going to go ahead and wind down this recording. Thank you all very much for listening. This has been the Hypercube podcast. This show is edited by Loryn Pacheco, mixed by Raphael Pacheco, with original theme music by Mono Memory. Our special guest this week has been Braigar of TSCStudios. Be sure to check him out. Until next time, we'll see y'all later. God bless.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I love Truman Show.